Right now, let's talk to Nadhim Zahawi. He's the Minister for Business and Industry and joins us now. Good morning to you.
Morning, Julia.
Good morning. Well, look, we're going to talk about rebuilding and what's happening with the economy in just a moment. But first up, let's talk about that local lockdown in Leicester. Prospect possibly more on the way. We now know that there's been a spike in cases in June in Birmingham as a result, they think, of the Black Lives Matter protest. Are you, as a government, are you confident that we should be turning our attention to dealing with the economic fallout right now, rather than just re-stressing again and again and again the need for people to obey the social distancing rules as we come out of lockdown?
I think you raise a very important point, Julia, and you're absolutely right to say that we have to remain alert. The Prime Minister said it yesterday. It's like a shark circling this virus. Hasn't gone away. It's still in our communities. The test and trace system is working. So 75% of people who are testing positive are engaging with test and trace. In the last 3 weeks, 100,000 people have effectively been warned and have isolated and been taken out of the ability to spread the virus in communities, which I think is a really good thing. Test and trace allows us to basically identify spikes early and then act upon them. We had that in Weston-super-Mare, and we dealt with it with the local leadership there. Local authorities up and down the country have got local plans of dealing with this. Obviously, in Leicester City and Leicestershire County, Matt Hancock, the Secretary of State for Health, 11 days ago highlighted Leicester as a spike. We've sent in 4 mobile units to ramp up testing. We've sent tests to people's homes, tests on the shop floor, tests in the workplace, testing children at school. Hence why we've had to take the measures we've taken to bring the virus under control, because what we want to do is always remain ahead of the virus so that we can reopen the economy. You're right, this is all about lives and protecting lives, but it's also about livelihoods, Julia. It's important that we make the investment. So the Prime Minister announced £5 billion, and to demonstrate that actually it's about making sure we can get businesses going, whether in construction, whether in the green economy with hydrogen and nuclear and renewables, to make sure that the recovery is as robust as we can make it. You mentioned Andy Haldane at the Bank of England talking about a V-shaped recovery. Well, that will happen if we focus on skills and, what skills do we need for the future jobs that are being created in the economy. We focus on the interventions we make. Rishi Sunak wrapped his arms around the economy, protecting jobs with all the interventions he made. Over 9 million people getting a wage packet for 8 months until October on furlough. Millions of people who are self-employed getting the help they need. Bounce back scheme with £50,000 for the smallest businesses, up to 50,000 in 100% guaranteed loan. So a lot of work is taking place. The Secretary of State at Business is announcing the R&D roadmap today. We've got a really big, ambitious plan, £22 billion a year of R&D spend by 2024. It's currently at 12 billion, by the way. So it's a massive, massive increase, ahead of probably every other country around the world. Very important, so the recovery is dynamic as we can make it.
Okay.
Yes, we entered this. Sorry, I was just going to say we entered this pandemic with near full employment, but obviously now many companies, I've been speaking to Airbus, of course.
Yes, well, I will come on to that. I absolutely want to talk about the positive things that are happening. We're very much about that here on Talk Radio. It's not all doom and gloom. We've got to look at that. But I do just want to ask, you talk about research and development and innovation and the like. Today, the 1st of July, is the time when Boris Johnson had pledged to process all coronavirus tests within 24 hours. And we know that's absolutely crucial about dealing with spikes and getting our economy can only bounce back if we don't have a second wave, and if we are able to contain the virus, and local lockdowns are going to be part of that. But that only really works if we've got the full information. Are we going to be seeing, as of today, that every single test result is turned around within 24 hours?
Well, that's what we want to make sure happen in terms of the data release is that the statistics have to be robust. We're working with the UK Statistics Authority to make sure that whatever we released is absolutely robust. And they were challenging to us a few weeks ago to say, we need the data. We're working with them on that. The worst thing you can do is publish bad data, in my view, which is why we've got to make sure the data is robust. To the Prime Minister's pledge, he's absolutely right. We want to get to make sure that the test results are back within 24 hours.
Well, will they be? I mean, today is, he said by the end of June, it's the 1st of July. And as it was, we discovered that didn't include postal kits or those sent to care homes. And that's a third of the total anyway. So he only has to get 2/3 of them.
Julie, you have to be fair. He did actually say very clearly, the caveat on this was the postal kits, because obviously you don't know when people will repost them back.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So, and you're right. You're right, because you're a fair person, Julia, to say that's about a 1/3 of the actual testing capacity. But ultimately, we want to make sure that the testing is as scaled and as robust as we can make it. It's currently running at about 230,000 tests a day. That's probably one of the highest. Puts us in the Premier League of nations for testing. It's been a remarkable effort from both, Public Health England, NHS, and of course, labs up and down the country. We want to make sure that continues. That's how we're picking up spikes when Leicester or elsewhere.
Well, that's the thing. We've got to pick those up. But look, let's go back again to what the Prime Minister was announcing yesterday. £5 billion. A lot of people saying a drop in the ocean. We had a Tory MP on the show yesterday pointing out he could spend £5 billion on infrastructure in his own constituency and not have any change left. But next week, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, is supposed to have a big announcement. In fact, a new sort of mini budget when we are expecting to hear an awful lot more. But what sort of help will there be for instance, and you touched on this, at airlines, this EasyJet and Airbus announcing huge job losses. The Ryanair chief, Michael O'Leary, by the way, has just announced he's taking a 50% pay cut. I think he'd probably still get by. He can probably afford his loo roll, can't he, on whatever pay he is getting. But there's lots of talk that actually we need really specific measures for specific sectors. So like the airline sector, like retail, like the leisure sector, which hasn't been forthcoming yet.
So what we have put in is £134 billion of help to business. You mentioned the £5 billion yesterday the Prime Minister talked about, and the Prime Minister was setting out what we're doing for schools and for further education in terms of the repairs that the colleges need and the schools need, and of course for hospitals. But the £5 billion, Julia, it's really important, is part of £640 billion over this Parliament. So £120 billion a year of investment in our economy to produce that green economy, that vibrant economy of the future, whether it's in aerospace and aviation, which is a really strong industry in the UK, and we want to maintain it. I'm working with Airbus to mitigate the job losses. So if you look at the package for the aviation industry, currently in the UK, new money that we've injected is about £6 billion between the Bank of England and UK Export Finance, £6 billion into the industry. Other nations have done other things. We're working with the industry to see what more we need to do. I have announced £300 million in the Future Flight Challenge. The Prime Minister talks about wanting a long haul flight that is zero emissions. Fly zero, I think is the thing that he called it, rightly so. I think we can do it in the UK by bringing all stakeholders together. So there's a massive investment. This is part of a £640 billion investment over the next 5 years, not just the £5 billion. Okay. 2 weeks ago, Julia, we announced, the UK Infrastructure Authority announced £37 billion in the next 12 months of infrastructure spend, shovel-ready projects up and down the country. Hardly got a mention, hardly got a headline. That's £37 billion in the next 12 months. And you're going to hear more from Rishi Sunak soon as to what the interventions will look like to make sure the recovery is as dynamic and robust as we can make it.
Okay, well, let's also talk about something which, again, I'm bemused has been in so much in the news when we've been dealing with a pandemic and dealing with an economic crisis, and that's Black Lives Matter. We've seen the Premier League row back on their support for Black Lives Matter, pointing out, having the slogan on the T-shirts, it's about the slogan, it's not about the organisation. Keir Starmer, who took the knee along with every Premiership player doing so and supporting Black Lives Matter, also rowing back. Do you think it's been a mistake for people to support the slogan and or the organisation?
Well, I think for me, what Black Lives Matter is about is equalities of opportunity. It is the same for Boris Johnson. It's the same for Rishi Sunak, for Alok Sharma, for Kemi Badenoch, who's leading on this issue for us, a brilliant rising star in the Conservative Party. Kemi is. What it's about is not just slogans. It's about making sure that opportunities are spread equally. Talent in the UK is spread equally. There's some amazing people doing amazing things from the Black community. I spoke to Black entrepreneurs with The Voice magazine. 500 of them turned up for a webinar on a call with me to talk about the government interventions, how we can help them, try and get through the pandemic and also grow their businesses. So for me, setting aside the slogans, setting aside, all of that, what really matters is people of Black and other ethnic minorities, like my family. When we came to the United Kingdom in 1978, this country afforded us two great gifts. One is the gift of opportunity, and the second is freedom. We came from a country fleeing Saddam Hussein, and this country has incredible opportunities for people, but we need to get better at it. It's improved since the 70s and the 80s and 90s, and it continues to improve under a Conservative government because we're serious about it. The number 10 disparity audit and the unit there that is focused now with Mira.
So was it a mistake? Was it a mistake for the Premier League to have that slogan on their shirts?
No, I don't think it's a mistake. I think, look, football players, and we've had terrible incidents of racism in football, both domestically and internationally. When the England team has played overseas, including sadly, in Europe, there's been terrible abuse of our players. Raheem Sterling and others have suffered from it. And even before that, John Barnes, as I remember as a kid, seeing him as a great icon. And he suffered terribly from abuse, racist abuse and discrimination. So it clearly is something that the Premier League needs to embrace and do something about. But what's really important is not just the slogan, is look, what are you going to do to make sure those opportunities, young Black men and women, their parents will be listening to your program now saying, what I want for my son and daughter is a job. I want them to have a career. I want them to have a really good school to go to. These are the things that Boris Johnson is focusing on. That's what his speech was about yesterday.
Okay,
well, to make sure the opportunity that we level up around the country, that opportunity.
We'll have to leave it there. Business Minister Nadhim Zahawi, very much appreciate you joining us.